Hello, and welcome to another screencast here. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and to get more updates on videos. And I'm doing live videos as well. And on the channel, have a lot of videos on how to play certain tunes and some patterns and that kind of thing. So be sure to look around the channel, and I'd also love to hear from you and help you out on anything that you're working on. So be sure to send an email if you like. All right, so in the previous screencast, I spelled out some of the patterns, the basic patterns, major scale patterns, relative minor scale patterns, but all relative to the major. So this week I'm going to kind of back up a little bit and talk about unison notes and octave shapes. So we have a kind of a basic framework to look at. So so I have A here lined up. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about unison first. So so I'm going to place a note here. The open A, and fifth string, or sorry, sixth string, fifth fret here. So those are the unison notes, tuning notes, probably familiar with. Okay, so next I'm going to highlight these notes, and I'll place a few of them here. I may not get all four of those in. We may not be able to view all four of those, but we have A, and these are all unison. So we have A on the third string, second fret, A on the fourth string, seventh fret, and A on the 12th string, fifth fret, and even A also on the 17th fret of the sixth string. All right, and so this also, before I go on, this also applies to any note, so you can find these patterns. All right, so I'm going to clear these highlights out, and then we'll play one octave higher, and we'll find the unison notes on that. Okay, so I'll shift all of these up one octave. So we have first string, fifth fret, second string, 10th fret. We have third string, 14th fret. And then we have our third string, 14th fret, fourth string, the 19th fret, and then if you have a 24th fret, that would be 24th fret and the fifth string, all unison. Okay, clear those highlights out, and then we'll go up one more octave. So I'll remove this one. This one. And we'll go up an octave from there. Okay, and that one might be out of the frame on this larger one, but you kind of get the idea here. All right, so those unison shapes are really important to understand. So try to work at those, play those, and find those in each part. So that's going to be really important in tying this all together. So next up, we'll look at the some of the octave shapes. So we're going to start here with the third string, second fret, and fifth string, fifth fret. So right here. Okay, so if you have your guitar handy, try to play this third string with the first finger and this first string, fourth finger there. Okay, so we'll start with that. We're going to take this. Now we're going to take this note from the third string, second fret, and move it to its unison, which is fourth string, seventh fret. Okay. Now this octave shape, you can play with 2 and 4, fingers 2 and 4, and practice it with 1 and 3 as well. So before I go a little further, we want to create this kind of framework for other patterns. So you can connect these with triads, pentatonic scales, scales. So any kind of material. So let's move now the this note from the first string to the second string. So that's unison, and then we get this new octave shape. Okay, so this one we can reach with fingers 1 and 4. So 1 on the first finger on the fourth string, seventh fret, and fourth finger on the second string, 10th fret. Okay. So you can see we're moving one of the lower note or the higher note each time. Okay, so this time we're going to move the lower note to its unison on the fifth string, and then we keep the upper note where it is. Okay, so you can play with this with 2 on the second string, finger 2, and then 4 on the fifth string, or fingers 1 and 3. Okay, and so you want to practice with both. So next up, we'll take the higher note and move that. Same note here, but we're moving it to the third string. Okay, and this is another one. We can play with fingers 2 and 4. And we can also play fingers 1 and 3. All right, we're going to take the lower note, down to the sixth string now. Okay. And so we could play with fingers 1 and 4. Reach that with 1 and 4. And when you get this high up the neck, you might even try fingers 1 and 3. But in general, especially when you're lower, we're going to play that with 1 and 4. Okay, so let's try one more here. So we're going to move this higher note to the 19th fret on the fourth string. Okay, and so that can be played with fingers 1 and 3 or 2 and 4. All right. So those are the 7 octave shapes. So you can play octaves across different string patterns, like fifth to let's say six, for example. But those are going to be really far apart, so they don't fit easily in a hand position unless you can really stretch really far. So these are 7 shapes that that are easy, fairly easy to play in a position. So let's take these last couple of shapes. So we had, let's say, we had this shape a minute ago. Let's take these 2 notes and move it down an octave. So I'll try to demonstrate here how we can, so I have to compensate here for the scaling of this neck. So there's that same octave shape, an octave lower. Okay. So we're now here and here. And so we just compare those to this and this. Okay. All right. And then now let's try these two. So 3rd string and 6th string, and if you remember, that was the same that we had, same relative shape that we had up here, further up the neck. Okay, and then let's check out another one here. So we'll move this higher note up to here. Okay, so hopefully you're starting to see some of these shapes. Let's just check out one more little thing here. Hopefully bringing this kind of together. Let's try this kind of higher octave here. In this position, so 14th position. If you're having trouble reaching that high, it's okay. So this is the same relative shape as this one, down here, 2nd position. So I just want to kind of bring this all around so that we can see the completion of how the patterns start to repeat. Okay. So now we're going to tie in these octave shapes into positions. And what this is going to help you to do is play harmonies and scales, arpeggios, all relative to some frame of reference, which is just one note, like a root note of a chord, for example, or a tonic of a key. So let's take these 7 octave shapes, and we're going to lay them out and understand how they work in those 5 basic pattern kind of regions. All right, we're going to start here. I'm not going to talk about this that much, but we're going to start with this in this open position. But because we have so many open strings and that kind of thing, I'm going to focus more on the next position. Okay, so this time I'm going to kind of leave each octave shape in place, so I won't move things around as much. So we've got this octave shape, okay, and then this octave shape an octave higher. Now if I duplicate this open note, okay, and we talked about this unison before, Then I have this note down here. All right, so so now I'm looking at the second position, and you can see in this shape. So this is one of the 5 basic shapes or pattern regions. I don't want to say position because some of them you may want to shift around a little bit, so you're in more than one position. But this kind of pattern region, you might recognize this as having a G kind of shape. If you had a capo on the 2nd fret, for example. So that's just a triad. That would be an A major triad placed in there. But I just wanted to give you kind of an example there. But we'll talk more about triads and scales and all that. But we'll just work at a framework here in this video. Erase or remove these highlights here. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate this note. Then we'll end up here. So this is another pattern region. So I'm going to remove the highlight on the previous one. So we're kind of talking about these 3 notes here. This is another pattern region that has 2 full octaves. So there are two of those. There's this one here, which we talked about, and then there's this one here. So 2 full octaves. Okay, so now I'm going to find the unison of this note. So I'm duplicating this, place it up here. It's kind of the same thing I did earlier, but I'm leaving everything in place this time. So, so I'm going to remove these highlights. And so we have this octave shape here. And so you can build your scales, arpeggios, or whatever you're working at around this. Okay, and just 1 octave here in this area. Okay, so now I'm again going to duplicate this lower note. And I'm gonna put it down here on the 5th string. Okay, so I'll highlight this one. Okay, so now we're looking at that area. So then we have another kind of pattern region that we can use, and there we can we only have 1 octave there. Okay, so now I'm going to duplicate this higher note here. Okay, so I'll move this highlight from here to here. Highlighted in orange there. And so we're looking at that. So again, in that position, 1 octave. And so that is relatively the same as the open area there for A. Okay, and then again, I'm going to duplicate this lower note. All right, so moving this down to here. And then, so here, before I go on, here, I'm going to place one that's an octave above the 3rd string. So here you can see, again, we have in this position, so the hand usually fits within 4 frets in a position. So you can see 4 frets here. We have 2 full octaves again. Okay. And that is an octave above where we kind of started this out. Okay. So now I'm going to duplicate this note on the 3rd string. Place this on the 4th string, this 19th fret. And if you're having trouble reaching those, you don't have to worry about it too much. Depends on kind of guitar you have. But as long as you're getting the concept here. All right, so then that's another 2 full octaves where we can reach 2 full octaves within a position easily. Okay. All right, so I'm going to try just kind of circling some of these areas, so you can see what I mean by kind of a pattern region. So some of these, what position you'll play in will depend on what's comfortable for whatever material you're working with, if it's minor, diminished, or augmented. So I'm going to leave it a little bit vague so that you have an idea. So this area here, okay, so 2 full octaves, and you can play kind of in that shape there. Let me just highlight those notes down here first before I move on. Okay, so we have that, and so that is not a set, necessarily a complete rule, but just kind of the idea of this area here. Okay, 2 full octaves, so 7 octave shapes, 5 pattern areas to work from, and some of the frets will shift depending on what material you're using again. All right, so I'll draw another circle around. So, so we have 2 octave shapes here. Let me change these highlights again. And here, so if you're playing in major, you might play more 4th position with this shape. If you're playing in minor, for example, you might play more in 5th position. So that's why I'm kind of including quite a few frets here. All right. One of these notes. I think I hit Control-Z or something, and that moved back. Okay. All right. So that's that. All right. So all right. So now let's look at the next one here. So we'll move up to this other octave shape. And this is another one where if you're in major, you might play in 6th position. Minor, you might play in 7th, primarily. So I'm going to circle quite a bit of area here. Okay, so then you have this kind of area to work with, and just kind of maybe shifting one position. Okay, so let's move to the next octave shape here. Okay, so here we have this. And again, this is not a set barrier, just sort of to give an idea of what kind of position you might be in. For example, if you're playing diminished, you might tend to have this note out here, so maybe I should make this even larger. or even in this direction. So anyway, that's kind of the idea. Got kind of an area there to work from. Okay, so I'll look at this next spot. Okay, and then here you're working somewhere in this area. So those are the 5 shapes. Now I'll kind of draw them in and allow them to kind of overlap. Okay, so we have here somewhere in this area, and then we have something kind of in this area. Then we have patterns in this area here. Let me extend that a little further. Okay, and then okay, so there are kind of the 5 areas that you'll be using, and so this is just for A as well. So, but they all are relative to themselves. So you can find these in different spots. So D, G. I'll just kind of go. You can see they're relatively the same. So once you can get this, you want to put it into practice and to see where every note, do this with every note, and then see how that lines up with the markings on the guitar. All right, great. So this is meant to kind of give us a framework, something to work from, and so a lot of the videos that I'll be doing in the future will be based on this and understanding this. So be sure to spend some time with this. I know it seems maybe like there's not a lot going on, but this is going to be very important. All right, well, thanks for listening. Be sure again to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I'll catch you next time.